Welcome to the Golfish Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Goodman. Every week on the show, we're going to bring you fascinating interviews with the people behind the players of the PGA, LPGA, Champions Tour, and beyond. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the action. This week, I'm joined by Candace Evans. Candace previously worked for the PGA Tour and now runs social media for Bryson DeChambeau, Sergio Garcia, Vijay Singh, and Waco Neiman. We got into all the things during this conversation and had such a great time getting to know each other. Since we were so chatty, we've decided to split this episode into two parts, so be sure to come back next week to finish part 2 with Candace. Let's get started. How are you, Candace?
I'm great. How are you?
So excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, I've been doodling on my notepad. I feel like I'm back in school or something.
Right? Same here. I feel like based on the text conversation we were just having, I think everyone's in for a really good treat today.
Oh, good. I hope so. I hope people find me at least mildly entertaining.
Yes, I think we're good there. So thank you for joining me. Like I said, I'm thrilled to have you here. You and I chatted a few weeks ago, and it started out, just for some background for everyone, it started out as like, I was thinking it'd be maybe a 5-10 minute conversation, and 30 minutes later, I walk out of my bedroom and Rich was like, my husband was like, did you just meet your new best friend? I'm like, well, maybe. I hope so.
I really enjoyed our first conversation too, and I'm like, well, this should be easy.
I know.
I don't think I have anything to worry about.
No, not at all. And I'm like, darn, why didn't we just record that? It was so good. There were so many good nuggets in there.
Let's see what other nuggets we can do.
Hey, we'll find them. So I'd love to know, and I'm sure everyone listening would love to know, how you got your start within the golf industry specifically.
You know, that's so funny you asked that. A lot of people ask me that. And for background, I went to school at Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. I majored in marketing, and I always had, I guess, like an interest and a passion for brands that kind of had these comeback stories, or, you know, I liked watching people that manage themselves as brands. So it's funny how it's all turned into this. After I graduated from college, I went to an advertising agency, which was excellent experience. I actually followed my brother down to Florida, and that's where I got the job. And 6 years after working at the ad agency, I applied to the PGA Tour. I just sent my resume in, and I ended up getting lucky. The woman that was hiring actually worked at the agency that I worked at previously. So,
isn't it funny how when those things all fall into place?
Yes, that's what I always say. When you look back, it's like a timeline of, you know, where you were meant to be. And I always feel like if I get off track, I get pushed back onto track somehow. So I definitely feel like I'm in the right place and time. I love what I'm doing. And I think that's the best thing that I could tell anyone. People are always like, how'd you get into it? I'm like, I just applied. Right. So you never know who's on the other side of that screen.
You don't at all. So, and you've made a pretty significant transition. We'll go back and talk about what you did with the PGA, but you've made a pretty significant transition and now own your own social media company, Sunshine Social.
Yes. Yeah. I work with Bryson DeChambeau, Sergio Garcia, Joaquin Neiman, and Vijay Singh. So I've got an eclectic group, but they're all so much fun to work with. I love all my guys.
Well, and you had quite a weekend, too.
Oh, my gosh. I feel like my eyes are actually bloodshot because I've been staring at my screen all day trying to keep up with everything. And I've been cutting a video for Joaquin, so it's just one of those things where I have no complaints at all. This is such a good weekend for them. And it just so happens to be Bryson's birthday today, too. So.
I saw that. Yeah. Happy birthday, Bryson. So just so everyone knows, this will launch in a couple of weeks, but it is September 16th today. So happy belated to Bryson when this comes out.
Yes. Happy belated.
That's awesome. So tell us more about your time within the PGA. Obviously, you had kind of an in, whether you knew it or not, which is always great. But what was your role when you were working for the PGA?
When I worked for the PGA Tour, I spent a few years in their marketing services division. And mainly with that role, it was helping put together advertising campaigns for different tournaments. So I mainly worked on the WGCs, the World Golf Championships, and the President's Cup, and handled all of the advertising for those. And I worked with different teams. We had a creative team, we had a PR team, we worked with our ticketing team. So it was a really good transition from the agency side, where I did a lot of the same work and applied it to the PGA Tour and to the tournaments, and got to know the sponsors and their needs as well. And then after that role, after I was in that role for about 2.5 years, I moved over to the PR side, and I'm so grateful for that experience. I had an amazing team that I worked with. Chris Reimer and Laura Neal were my bosses. And Alex Urban, who's actually the executive director for the Century Tournament of Champions out in Hawaii now. We were all part of this awesome PR team. And we looked after press conferences for the players for specific events. And we did a lot of PR campaigns, kind of leading different fan initiatives that were on site, or seeing how we could integrate our players into some of those fan activities. So it was good. It was an awesome experience, and that's where I met and worked with a lot of agents.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of players, and so that really helped me get set up for starting my own agency. And I was able to see, I think what helps me in the role that I'm in now is that I'm able to see things from a pretty broad perspective. I know what the PGA Tour is looking for. I understand where they're coming from. I understand the players and their time constraints and kind of the sponsor pressures that they're under. I can just kind of see it from a bunch of different sides, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to give a plug to your social media, because your social media, I mean, obviously you run a PR firm. It's so fun. But as I was researching this episode, if you go back to Candace's, not the Sunshine Social, but your personal one, you have some really cool shots. Like the one that comes to mind. And it makes sense because I was going to ask you about it, but I was like, oh, you were doing a press conference with DJ, but it's you and DJ like sitting on a stage.
Yeah, that's when I was in my previous role. So yeah, I would lead the winning press conferences. There's one of me and Jason Day too. So I think in both of those instances, they were both world number one. DJ had just won all of the World Golf Championships. Kind of sealing the deal with match play at that one, I believe. Okay. And yeah, that's the role that PR team is in, and they get some pretty special moments. The team that was working with Bryson for Northern Trust Media Day this year, they took him to the top of the Empire State Building. They took him around to CNBC and the Stock Exchange, and a bunch of, I mean, they lead these citywide tours with the player and just get a ton of PR for them, and it's awesome. So it's not just for tournament week. There's a lot of things leading up to it in the cities that the tournaments play in that they have to kind of promote in advance using the players. So I think you can actually look up Bryson's New York media tour. It's probably on the PGA Tour somewhere, and just see all of the different spots that he went to. That was my former role, was coming up with those cool ideas.
Yeah. And they're so neat and so fascinating. I mean, just I follow all of the players that you work with, obviously, but just seeing some of the different things that they do. And I was always so intrigued. I was like, how in the world do they manage to tell us about all these things? And then I talked to you and I was like, never mind. They're all human too. they're not perfect at golf and perfect at dressing themselves and perfect at social media. And I'm like, okay, I feel great. I feel great right now.
No, everyone is human. And, it's so funny that you say that. I think that's one of the things that we talked about when we were first introducing ourselves is like, they are so great at golf. I'm not. I'm never going to pretend to be that person that's like critiquing their swing. Right. And they don't pretend to like know everything about social media and critique me. And so it's such a perfect combination.
Absolutely.
And team that we have where we kind of let each other like to our own strengths, but we kind of work together on some of the fun sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is so fun. And I mean, I think it speaks very highly, and let's jump into Sunshine Social, because I feel like it speaks very highly to me not knowing that it's not necessarily them. I mean, it's everything that they have done, but you're showing that. And I think the thing that is so fascinating to me is I didn't know a lot about Joaquin until his win. Because he hadn't won before. And, you know, until you win, there's not usually a lot of press on you unless something unfortunately bad has happened. So you look at like Sergio and VJ and Bryson, and I think something that was so interesting to me that I never thought of, I think I made the comment of, you work with some guys that do need some PR help. And your response to me, and I'd like to unpack that, is that people and media, not calling out anyone in particular, just in general, does clickbait. So it's like whatever is going to be the big thing. But when you think about it, it's like Sergio does something and you hear about it for a week, but then it goes away. And then slow play was such a big thing for like a month. And I haven't heard anything. And I don't know if you watched the Solheim Cup this weekend, but they were penalizing the players for slow play. And it was just so interesting because it seems like Bryson was at the forefront of that. And then something new came out and now no one's talking about it again. So do you want to kind of tell me about how you became engaged with these players and what kind of your role in kind of destigmatizing the players is?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the things when I worked on the PR side at the tour that really opened my eyes. I mean, think about it. The media side is, media in general is a business. There's papers. They have to pay salary to employees. They get compensated for ads that they sell. It's a business. So if they need to put an ad up that picks out the one sentence that can be twisted into something negative, just so that they get the clicks that are also a return on, their money, then they're going to do that. So when you look at the slow play issue that Bryson went through, so much was just like turned head over tails, and it kept spinning and spinning and spinning. And Bryson, all he wanted to say was, I hear you and I agree. Like, I agree that players should be penalized. But he's like, learn about the whole issue. Bryson explained it to me because prior to that, I have to be honest, I was not, up to speed on the PGA Tour rules regarding slow play. And I don't think a lot of people are.
No, not at all.
And Bryson was like, they don't take into consideration the full length of the round. So he'll run to, he'll be the first one to his ball, but he can't hit if he's in the middle of the fairway and there's a guy behind him that's in the rough. Do you know what I mean? So there's things that he's doing that he might be a little bit slower in putting, but he's trying his hardest to like get up to speed on the other areas and walk fast where he can walk fast. So that was all that he was saying is like, hear me out. And I think the biggest story, and this kind of blends into Sergio and his win, is people want to stand with the player when they're doing well, but they they'll be the first to like chop them at the knees if there's anything that they've done wrong. And Sergio kind of dealt with that a little bit this last year. And then, you know, he has a win and all of a sudden there's like, you know, everyone is cheering for him again.
Right.
And I thought that was, I always use Tiger as an example. When he won the Masters, no one, the same people that were, you know, beating him down when he had, I don't know what it was, the traffic issue in Jupiter.
Absolutely.
People were beating him down about that, saying his future is done, yada, yada, yada. And now when he wins the Masters, they're like, oh, we knew he would come back. This is the greatest moment. And, and I just like, that's all I could think of when I was watching the Masters was, you know what, people will, if everything is an ebb and a flow, like there's definitely no, there's no like hard lines for when things are going to stick, but I don't know. I just find it fascinating, you know, when everybody jumps on, they'll actually use the exact words of whatever's on the news or in articles. And I'll actually see it in a lot of the guys' social feeds in the comments section. So it's very, I don't know, news is very, I can't find the word, captivating. I don't think reporters realize how much they're influencing people when they're writing stories, but a lot of them are, in my opinion, biased. They come from an opinionated source as opposed to factual.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that all the time, and I'm going to butcher his name. I'm actually Chambly. When he has an opinion on something, when he's right, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we knew he was right." And when he's like going against Brooks, it's like he's about to be crucified. Right. Regardless of what he's saying.
Brooks was standing up for himself, and a lot of players won't do that. So it's, I mean, it's all in the fights you want to pick, I guess. If you're going to stand your ground, you have to stand your ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to go back to Bryson too. Bryson did a fantastic, in my opinion, a fantastic job at an interview he did with Foreplay Podcast. I was really, if anyone is listening and wants to understand more about what Candace was talking about with Bryson's thoughts on how to fix the slow play issue, or at least see a full conversation about it. It's like, I don't know, it was like a 45 minute podcast. And I think he articulated it really well and brought up points that I agree with you and him. No one is talking about. They're not talking about an overall game. They're just talking about putting. It's not, he's like, someone can take 10 minutes to walk up to the green and that's not a problem because it's just timed once you take your stance to putt, which is just, it's such a different thing that you're right. No one in the media is talking about that. Right.
Yeah, they just want names. So unfortunately, Bryson got thrown into that, but and it wasn't handled the best way of, you know, saying different players that, you know, are slow as well. But I think what he was trying to say was like, hey, I'm not the only guy, but I think he was singled out as the only person.
Yeah.
So,
well, he was the biggest name, right?
Hard not to take offense like that. I mean, these guys are human. If someone were looking at you and saying, hey, you're not doing a good job at what you do, you're going to take offense to it no matter what it is, even if they're not looping in other people.
When you think about golfers compared to so many other sports, they are on TV, like you can live stream any of this for 3 to 4 days a week, every single week. And with how short, I won't even consider it an off season, how you're 1 week off in September and like 4 weeks off over the holidays, like Thanksgiving to Christmas, right? I'm like, these guys are just in the spotlight all the time, where a football player plays on Sunday and then you just don't really hear about him or see him, or you can't just scrutinize every single thing that they're doing.
It's not just that, it's phones. Like the tour changed their device policy a couple of years ago where they allowed spectators to take video, and which is great. Like I'm all for that. But that has just increased it exponentially. A lot of the stuff that's coming out has been like stuff that people have recorded and then they tag Golf Channel or Barstool Sports or whatever it might be. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that actually.
I will have to say that's probably why the Masters is my favorite place to be during a tournament, just because all of that is taken away. There's just, you are just there to watch the game.
Right.
And eat cheese sandwiches.
And peach ice cream.
Right. And peach ice cream sandwiches. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, tell us how you got started with these players. Who did you sign on first? How did that come about? And then how are new players like Joaquin, how are they coming to you?
I get the majority of my work through the agents. So all of my clients have come through their agents. In the case of VJ, I work with his son a lot. His son actually came to me, Cass, and they live here locally. And he met me at the Players through Sergio and Joaquin's agent, and he was just like, "Hey, I want to revisit that conversation." But yeah, it's just a matter of that's where working at the tour and working with a lot of the agents for press conferences and kind of getting to know the players that way.
Yeah.
That's how it all started. And in the past, I've worked with Billy Hurley, who's so smart and very business minded. He was really great to work with. And so was his wife, Heather. And I worked with Patrick Reed actually for a really short time. I worked mainly with Justine. She's the one that reached out to me. I loved working with Justine and the Reed family.
Let's talk about that, because that's another player that literally, unless they are winning, people are like burning their souls to not say anything nice about either one of them. So I would love to hear positive press for them and what they're like when it's not just created drama.
Yeah, sure. I think, there's different perspectives and I can only share what mine is.
Absolutely.
I loved working with Justine and Patrick. Justine was actually one of my favorite people to call, like you. Like I would get on the phone with her and we'd talk for like an hour.
That's so fun.
And then we'd be like, oh yeah, we have to talk about work.
Oh yeah. Oh shoot. That's what that was about. In the last 3 minutes are about work.
Yeah, exactly. And she's a mom. She's juggling a lot. She kind of wears a lot of different hats for Team Reed. She wears the mom hat, the wife hat. Mm-hmm. She also looks after Team Reed Enterprises and their nonprofit work that they do. And
was she caddying for him at the time, or was it her brother then?
No, she was not caddying. It was her brother. This was recently, maybe like last October. And I think they're great people. I would walk with Kessler and Patrick and joke around with them on the course, and then say goodbye. I mean, there was never any issues that I had with them.
That's good to hear, because it's so challenging to watch like someone like, or a couple like Patrick and Justine. There's been, everyone has family drama, right? I have family drama. Just everyone has it.
Right. That's what
and when you just can't, you just can't overcome it because no one will let it go.
Yeah. And anyone you talk to, if they say their family's normal, they're lying.
Well, they're probably the weird one.
Everybody somewhere has got a weird aunt or a weird uncle.
Absolutely.
Or a sister that is a drama queen. Like, we've all got it.
Yeah.
So I think it's relatable what they've been through, and they're very, I don't think they dive into that subject matter very often because they just think it's not relevant anymore. They'd rather focus on winning and competing, and it is what it is. I think there's plenty that goes into something like that. If you cut a family member off, and I don't know the whys, but people have their reasons, and you have to respect that. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think anyone that tries to dive into something like that is out of line.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like so many of the players on any of the tours, I mean, even down to the mini tours, they are just inherently like private people. And I think Patrick and Justine get beat up a lot about that. But I'm like, one of my favorite players is Jordan Spieth. Jordan and Annie like are not out there all the time telling all their business. I mean, you see them with like the spring break boys, but like that's kind of it. You know, they didn't make their wedding into a big thing. You know, it's like so many people on these tours are private, but you hang on to one thing and it's like, oh, they just don't want us to know anything. I wonder what's going on. It's like nothing's going on. They just don't want you
just none of
in
your
their
business.
face. Yeah, exactly.
I think the more that guys are in the spotlight and the more requests they have on them, I mean, it's not just media asks, but sponsor obligations and all the things that come with being on the top. I mean, you have more pressure and you have less time to yourself. So I think that's just it. They just want time to be with their families and be private.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us more about what those sponsorship obligations look like? Because I don't think I have any concept of what that time and requirement and testing products and everything, like what that looks like for them.
Well, on the golf side, I can't speak too in depth with that. I have no idea. I mean, and Bryson is a completely different animal with testing than some of the other players. But as far as my world with marketing, I like, for example, with Joaquin and Sergio's win, I'll try and work with the sponsors on best ways to integrate, you know, some of the products that the guys used for their wins or for a really great week. So both Joaquin and Sergio putted really well. So we'll actually have a putter giveaway coming up on his Twitter. And they'll be doing an Adidas winning outfit giveaway like later tonight or tomorrow. Both Joaquin and Sergio.
I need to write this down so I can tweet out and Instagram people and be like, hey, insider knowledge, there's something coming.
Yeah, so it's fun. Like, it's fun thinking of, you know, things that make sense to integrate the sponsors that are also fun for fans. And then I work with their families. If there's something coming up, I work really closely with Angela on Sergio stuff. And I'm trying to think, it's basically just a very collaborative process. For me, some sponsors require a certain amount of posts per year.
Okay.
So that's where, you know, getting involved with them on, you know, clever integrations for fan items will make sense. But they also have to do photo shoots if there's new products coming out. They have to do, like you said, testing for different products. Some sponsors have them come to like employee functions. Like if they have a huge, you know, employee rally, they'll invite one of the players to sit on stage and do a Q&A. They just do a lot of things
how
like
these
that.
guys sleep.
Sergio did like a media party, like a pop-up party in New York earlier this year for a special edition shirt that they did for, you know, the one where he was jumping at Medina. It was the 20th anniversary of that. So Adidas did a really cool shirt replica. So they do some things like that. And in my role, it's just a matter of just collaborating with them to see where it makes sense on the players' social channels.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like so much of what people have talked to me about, from like Scott Hamilton to JJ and from Titleist to Lance from Trackman, I feel like so many of the people that I'm talking to are all about saying it's all a collaboration. Like, we are just working together to make everyone the best they can be, to give them like a leg up where we can, and not try to put any more pressure than is already on them.
And knock it in their way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And like, I'll try and like feel the players out. If I feel like they're really focused on their competition, I'll get my stuff and like get out. And I know all the guys in the Cobra truck, because I'm in there a lot with Bryson and stuff that he's doing. Siobhan Howard is the Puma rep. I also work closely with her. You just start to know all of the faces out there, and you kind of know who's in and out, you know, that's not really a consistent face, but you know a lot of the people that are always there.
So do you call it the traveling circus too?
Yeah, I do. And it really is it's no joke. It really is a traveling circus.
It's so funny.
And I laughed the first time I heard that, because I couldn't believe how spot on it was. And then the more that I work in it, the more I'm like, it is a circus show out here. There's just, some guys are the clowns. Some guys are like the seals tossing the ball in the air. They just don't have a goal, really.
That's awesome. You know, I remember the first time I heard it, and I was like, I'm sorry, the what? Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, just wait until you come to an event and you'll just get it. I'm like, okay. So I can't think of who I was talking to, and they were like, well, you just have to go to an event to see. And at the end of the conversation, I was like, well, I've been to events. I've just been like Thursday through Sunday. And he was like, oh no, you need to come to the fun Monday through Wednesday. He's like, that's when you can really see all the fun. I'm like, okay, all right, good to know. I was like, we'll make that happen.
I'll raise my hand, and I'm a Monday through Wednesday gal now.
Oh, okay.
I used to be like all 7 days when I worked at the tour on the PR side, and those were long days. Those were like 12, 13-hour days, and I like give props to the teams that are on site for that long. They really work hard. But it's nice to kind of go in Monday through Wednesday now and then get out.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think I've heard that from everyone else too, where it's just like you are standing that long and it's just time for a break toward the end. Like, get home to your family, regroup, have the weekend, and then do it all over again.
Yeah, and luckily I'm not on the road that often. I've been on the road maybe 8, 9 times this year, with a lot of I went to all 3 playoff events, which wasn't exactly planned, but it worked out. And it's nice that I don't have to travel every week. There are people that are there like 7 days a week, every week of the year, which is tough when you have a family.
Absolutely. You know, you and I were, after we first chatted, you texted me, I don't know, maybe like a week later, and you were like, are you going to the Greenbrier? I was like, no, are you? And you're like, I'll go if you go. And I'm like, we closed on our house last weekend. And now, like, I woke up this morning and I'm like, wait a second. She's representing Joaquin. Like, you've got to be kidding me.
That would have been incredible.
Yeah, it would have been.
And Bryson has typically played well there in the past. So they were both playing that week, and it was the first event of the year. And I was like, well, if she's close enough, I could do the podcast in person with her. It would have all worked out. But congratulations on your house.
Well, really thank you. And just so everyone knows, we were going to talk a couple of weeks ago, and I'm very thankful that we're able to talk today, because you were able to avoid the hurricane that was going through Florida, and you guys were in the process of evacuating when you and I were chatting before. So I'm thankful that everything worked out for your family and for most of Florida, just in general. That was scary and coming in quick.
Same here. It was nuts how, it just kind of lingered over the Bahamas, and my heart goes out to the people that live in Abaco. I hope that they can help rehabilitate the island. And I know Bryson has a fund set up. So if anyone wants to donate, he still has the link up in his profile. But yeah, we booked a flight like Sunday night and left Monday morning. And I was like, shoot, I have to text Amy. We're going to be like in transition this week.
Right.
So
yeah. And
I ended up actually having more damage done probably than if I would have stayed. The storm passed Jacksonville, like not much happened here, thankfully. But I lost my phone. I just had like a crummy week up in Pennsylvania. It was,
the rental car was broken down.
My rental car, the door wouldn't shut. So like latch on the door was like closed, so it wouldn't shut where my 2-year-old's sitting. I'm like, this is not going to work.
Oh my gosh.
I was ready to get back by the end of it.
I bet.
Get back to business.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to put Bryson's link for his fundraising in our show notes as well, so that everyone can find it really easily. So tell me about your weekend this weekend. I mean, Joaquin and Sergio, whoever you want to start with, let's talk about what their wins were, because both were a big deal.
God, I know. Well, we'll start with Sergio. He went on the European Tour. He won the KLM Open. It was his first time playing in that event. It marked his 16th win on the European Tour. And, you know, I think the world of the Garcia family. His brother caddies for him. His brother actually sends me a lot of content. And they're all three of them that I work with are the nicest people that I've ever met. I can't say enough good things about them. And their daughter Azalea
she's so
sweet.
Cute. Oh my goodness, she's adorable.
So cute, and Sergio loves her to death. He'll show me videos of her talking. She's very smart, actually, for her age. She's almost putting together like full sentences. So, I don't know. I can't say enough good things about them. And I touched on it before, but just after all of the stuff that he went through last year, I just think it was validation for, you know, the person that he is, kind of working through it and persevering and then coming out on top. So I'm really proud of them, and big kudos to the Garcia family. And then I have a video I put together for Joaquin, actually, that is a little bit of a tearjerker, because this was his first win on the PGA Tour. Yeah. He just had his first full season out on tour last year. He had a little bit of a rough patch with his putting, and there at one point it was like, is he going to be able to keep his PGA Tour card? And then all of a sudden during the playoffs, he was just like charging. He made it by a hair into the playoffs, and then he charged at that event and made it into BMW. So he just finished so strong last year. I don't know if the off season helped him. I think he mentioned that it did, and he worked on his putting a little bit more. And he made history. This was, I think, the lowest round at the Greenbrier. Yeah. For a player to win. And he was, more importantly, the first Chilean to win on the PGA Tour. So he made history with that. And he is also one of my favorite people. I mean, I'm biased because I work with these guys too, but Joaquin will be the first person, if you're sitting down to lunch, if he needs to get up and get something, he'll ask you if you want something too. Like, he's very humble. Yeah. He is thoughtful. He hasn't been corrupted yet from the PGA.
There's still time. And now he's going to be on everyone's radar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's way more to come from him, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really neat. So that was his 44th start, first win. He had 4 top 10 finishes last year out of 28 events, which, I mean, for someone's first full year on the PGA, like I would consider that a success, especially with a late run.
100%.
Like he did.
Yep.
And Greenbrier seems to agree with him. And his because he played, I think what I was reading was he played for the first time in 2017. 2017 tied for, or finished 29th.
Fifth.
Then last year was 5th. And so,
yeah.
So what is it about Greenbrier that works for him?
That's a good question. You'll have to ask him, but I don't know what works so well with him. But it obviously fits his eye. He plays great there. And like I said, I don't know if the off season, the 2 weeks, helped at all, but he just seemed to have everything in alignment coming into the week. He did mention, actually, now that I think about it, he did mention that there's enough to do at the Greenbrier Resort that gets his mind off of his game mentally. So when he leaves the course, he can do something at the resort, or he can go. He was on an ATV and doing like mud trails.
Oh, goodness.
Earlier in the week with Harold Varner and Sebastian Munoz. And
that's funny.
He said that was like the highlight of his week. So that might be it. Maybe it's like these guys need, something fun when they leave the course, just to kind of, leave it out there. And then
that's so interesting. Yeah, that's so interesting, because I feel like watching Instagram this weekend, there were a lot of players' wives that were posting about all the different things they were doing. And it didn't really dawn on me that it was because it was at Greenbrier and there is more to do, where if you go to certain places, it's like, well, we're going to be in the house or condo or hotel we're in for the weekend and then kind of wrap up and go.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just post pictures of the course and not doing anything else. So that's a really interesting concept, that maybe there needs to be something more for these guys to be able to relax a little bit more, because they are just go, go, go all the time.
Yeah, 100%. I actually, when I used to work on the event for WGC Cadillac Championship in Miami, we were at Trump Doral. And that was one of my favorite stops all year, because it was a huge resort where, again, you have plenty of other stuff to do. And then you had the courses. So even if guys were to come in and, pay for a ticket to be a patron at the event one day, they could absolutely play one of the other 4 courses that were on property too. I mean, even for fans, it was exciting for them to be down there. But I loved that event. It was one of those places where you'd see like Ivanka Trump in the morning in her workout gear taking her kids to breakfast. And then you see, Rory coming up the stairs from his round. So it's that was a really cool clubhouse. I really liked that one.
Yeah. You just get a lot of access that you don't in other places.
Yeah, 100%.
I thought that about the RBC Heritage versus Augusta. I mean, there are such night and day differences of tournaments back to back. I was like, I went to the RBC for the first time this year, and I was like, oh, wow, this is so different. But you are like, you're on top of the players on anywhere that they're out and about. I mean, you're just right there. You can hear all their conversations as they're walking. I mean, it's just so different, the type of access you feel like you have.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about the phones is people are like within arm's length of the players sometimes, and they have their phone out. So any little thing, if they get frustrated, someone's going to catch it.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're all human in one way or another, but yeah, I love the RBC Heritage because the staff there and the volunteers, I mean, the first moment you walk onto the course, people are so friendly. It's something about that Southern hospitality.
They absolutely are. You're right.
I think they should win nicest event on PGA Tour.
Hey, I'll second that. We had a great time. I mean, it's a beautiful course. It is so distinct in how it's set up. Just because of how far deep you walk inland, and then you're just out on the water. But I unfortunately I got to visit the first aid tent, so I can second everyone being so nice. I wore sandals for the first time ever to a golf event, and I will never do it again. I had no idea how much sand was on that course, And I was like, I walked in, I was like, hi, I can't walk anymore. And they were just like, wait, what? But they were all, I mean, you're right. They are all so nice. And the hospitality areas that they have for fans they're just all so fun. It's a huge party, and it's such a, it's gotta be such a relief and a less stressful way to play. I mean, Augusta is hallowed ground to me, but it has to be a very just different pace for everybody to go there after that intense of an event that's a major and just Augusta's rules to go to RBC and just go on this little island and have fun.
Yeah, it's almost like Augusta's like church. You have to really be like prim and proper, and as soon as you leave church, you're like good to go.
Yep, you're good to go. Just ask for forgiveness the next week. You're good.
Yes. RBC Heritage is only an hour and a half from Jacksonville Beach. So I'm just saying, if you are in the vicinity next year, let me know.
We absolutely will. Well, it's on now. That
perfect.
Would be,
can't wait.
That would be perfect. Thanks for joining me this week. Let's continue the conversation online. You can find me at Golfish Podcast or at Ms. Amy Goodman on Instagram. See you next week.